Hello, so I know I made a video the other day saying I was actually going to get a potential Aspergers diagnosis, but it wasn't even that. It wasn't what I thought it was. I think life's so weird, and I've just literally spent the last few hours, I don't even know how long it's been, just laughing, but now I'm not laughing anymore. I wasn't laughing, I was just feeling hyperactive because we're playing that game where I was holding my breath for ages and then you have to make a prolonged sound. And that was what was happening. And then my sister went upstairs. Oh yeah. But anyway, it wasn't actually what I thought it was. The meeting. It was a what was it? It was like it was a follow up from the last meeting I had to go to, like a follow up appointment, because I forgot to collect some of the information. So it's still possible that I could be waiting for 2 years or at least up to that. I don't know. I don't even know if I have it anyway, so I probably don't. And it's just me building a narrative around certain actions that I perceive to be related to this specific thing that I've came into contact with. Sounds like a disease. With this specific idea or this specific label that I've come into contact with, and it could just be sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, because well, I don't know. I don't know who I am. I don't. How would I know? I don't know. I don't know who even am I? But I think that's sort of irrelevant right now. I sat in the bath, got a wet shoulder because it's raining outside, and don't ask why I've been outside at 12:30 at night. But it's been thundering and lightning, and it's been pretty fun. But before I was sat in the bath and I was reading my book, and I had this book. This book. 1 minute. This book's such an amazing book. So I was sort of dreading reading the next chapter just because of the length of it. Because it was a 25-page chapter, so I didn't want to like commit myself to that because that would take me like an hour and a half or something. So anyway, I decided I would carry on reading it, and it was such a good chapter. I'm really glad I did because, spoiler alert, but Pi, he finds an island, but it's not really an island. It's like something. It's like this big ball of algae or algae or how I don't know how you pronounce that word. It's spelled ALGE, floating on top of the water, and then it's got fish, and it's like it seems like heaven. And then Pi eventually realizes weeks later that it's not heaven. It's not actually a good place because, well, his initial um sense of horror almost comes from finding a full set of human teeth wrapped up in leaves like almost like a what are those things, a pearl in an oyster. So that sort of like creeps him out a little bit, and then he realizes all of the meerkats sleep up the trees, like they don't want to go on the algae in the night, or the algae. I don't know what to call it. Algae. Okay, they go on all the green stuff at night. They don't go on the green stuff at night, and he wonders why. So then he ends up throwing one of the meerkats out of the tree, and the meerkat lands on the algae, and it hurts its feet. So it runs back up and sits back next to Pi, and he starts licking his feet and stuff. Not Pi's feet, but his own feet, the meerkat's feet, or her own. I'm not going to assume the gender. So the meerkat starts licking the feet of of their own feet, and then the meerkat, and then Pi, he's like, okay, well, that's not enough evidence for me to suggest that I shouldn't be on this algae. I'm going to call it algae. I'm going to call it whatever comes to my mind. That's not enough evidence for me. So he goes down and he actually puts his feet on the algae, and his feet are burning all night, and it keeps him up. So he's like, oh my god, this heaven I found, or at least this heaven that I thought I found with fresh water and food for me and Richard Parker has finally, it's almost like the dystopia within the utopia has become prevalent. So he ends up setting off back on his boat, and he eventually, but obviously it cuts out a bit on the boat because the majority of the book is him struggling on the lifeboat with Richard Parker, trying to get food. So it cuts out all that bit, and he ends up in Mexico, and he gets stranded on a beach, and then Richard Parker ends up escaping and running into the wild, and then he gets saved, and then Pie's just really sad because he didn't get to say goodbye to Richard Parker. And it's so interesting because I mean I haven't finished the book yet. I've got maybe like 50 more pages, probably a bit less than that, maybe 30 more pages. I don't know. Not many pages left. So anyway, Pie ends up in Mexico, and but I was going to say it's interesting because it goes through these different phases of development almost. It's like he's so scared of Richard Parker at first because of what his dad told him about what tigers do to people, and he demonstrated this by feeding the tiger a goat in front of Pie when he was a little kid, and this pretty much scared him. And then the family, they own a zoo, and they end up selling it and trying to move to Canada, but then the boat sinks, and the ferry sinks, and then Pie ends up on this lifeboat with lots of animals, and then it's a whole journey like that, and then Pie ends up going through these different stages whereby he's trying to tame Richard Parker. He's trying to maintain life. I guess he doesn't want to die, so he does all he can to stay alive, and that means giving up some of his morals. So he's a vegetarian, but he ends up killing fish and cutting open sea turtles and doing all these seemingly immoral things that vegetarians wouldn't usually do. And yeah, I think what's interesting about the book is the religious elements to it as well, because Pie, well, at the start of the book, I don't know, I'm going through this in a bit of a strange order, but, and I've also not really finished the point I started before, but at the start of the book, Pie's quite, he wants to become a part of lots of different religions, so he ends up meeting with an imam, is it? An imam? An imam? Imam? Which is like one of the Muslim, it's almost like equivalent of a Muslim priest. Um, so he becomes a Muslim. He becomes, what else does he become? He's a Sikh. Oh, he's a Hindu by birth, pretty much, even though his family aren't really that religious. And I think he becomes a Christian as well. And yeah, it's like Pie's always, he feels like he's close to God throughout the book, and I think, I don't know, it's just a really nice story. And he goes through these different stages where he has to enter into something that's really difficult, like taming Richard Parker. And then eventually, in the end, he starts being thankful to Richard Parker. He starts saying that he's the reason that Pie's actually still alive, because if it wasn't for Richard Parker, he wouldn't have had that other. He wouldn't have had that companion. And it's not like the companion that you could sort of be close friends with. It's like you've obviously got to respect the tiger's nature, and the tiger almost has to respect Pie's nature, but Pie has to make the tiger respect. Um, Pie has to make the tiger respect his nature, and he has to establish a place in the dominance hierarchy between them both, because well, tigers need to know where they're situated. The tiger's called Richard Parker, by the way, and yeah, so and Pie, oh, it's just so sad. I almost cried when Richard Parker just ran off at the end into the wild, because Pie was thinking, oh, there was all these things that he wanted to say to him, like thank you for being there for me, and obviously a lot deeper than that, and in a lot um in a much more better, no, that's not what I look for, in a more articulated manner as well. But yeah, so I read that in the bath, and I don't know if I have Aspergers. I don't. I probably won't know for a long time, but you know, I don't think it really matters. I just know that I need to get a job, and I need to. Oh, I failed my theory test today as well. Again, for the second time, I failed it, but you know, it's alright. It's a lot of money, but I got pretty much the same score as well, so not great, but you know. I don't really know what else to say. I've just talked for ages about loads of stuff in an incoherent form of babbling, but yeah, it's got some coherency to it, so it's alright. Okay, I'm gonna go now.